I found my fiancé's ex-wife's driver's license in a locked drawer in his office. He never lets me enter. Except she wasn't an ex. She was a missing person. And I realized right then, the man I was sleeping next to wasn't a divorcee. He was a predator. This is a story of why you should always trust that feeling in your gut. My name is Kennedy Marshall. I'm 32 years old. I'm a marketing director at a healthcare company in Atlanta, Georgia. And up until September 8th, 2023, I thought I'd found the love of my life. His name was Trevor Hollis, 41 years old, a real estate investor who owned rental properties across the city. Tall, handsome, well-spoken, the kind of man who walked into a room and commanded attention without trying. We met in March of 2022 at a networking event for young professionals in Midtown. One of those after-work mixers with wine and cheese and people exchanging business cards like they were currency. Trevor was standing near the bar, talking to a group of investors. He had on a navy suit, crisp white shirt, no tie. He looked confident, established, like someone who had his life together. I was there with my coworker, Nia. She nudged me and said, "Girl, that man has been looking at you for the last 10 minutes. I glanced over. He smiled, and then he walked over. "Kennedy, right?" he said, extending his hand. "I heard your coworker say your name. I'm Trevor." We talked for an hour. He asked about my work, my goals, what I wanted out of life. He told me about his real estate business, how he built it from the ground up, how he loved the freedom it gave him. Before the event ended, he asked for my number. I gave it to him. Before I go any further, if you're interested in survival stories, betrayal narratives, or you just want to support this channel, please hit that like button and subscribe. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I need to know I'm not alone in this. Trevor and I went on our first date a week later. Dinner at a steakhouse in Buckhead. He picked me up, opened doors, paid without hesitation. We talked about everything. Our families, our careers, our dreams. He told me he'd been married once before. Said it ended badly. His ex-wife's name was Simone. He said she'd left him 3 years ago, just walked out one day and never came back. He said the divorce was finalized a year later and that he'd spent the last 2 years healing, rebuilding, and learning to trust again. I felt for him. I told him I understood. That I'd been hurt before, too. That I knew what it was like to have to start over. He said, "I think we're going to be good for each other." And I believed him. For the next year and a half, Trevor became everything I thought I wanted. He was attentive, generous, thoughtful. He'd surprise me with flowers at work. He'd plan weekend trips to Savannah, Charleston, Nashville. He remembered that I loved brunch, so every Sunday we'd try a new restaurant. He met my parents within the first 3 months. My dad, a retired firefighter, liked him immediately. My mom said, "He's a keeper, Kennedy. Don't let this one go." My friends adored him. Nia called him the perfect man. And honestly, I thought he was. In August of 2023, Trevor took me to Piedmont Park for a picnic. It was a beautiful evening, warm, clear skies, the sun setting over the Atlanta skyline. We'd just finished eating when he stood up, reached into his pocket, and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. He got down on one knee. "Kennedy," he said, "you're the most incredible woman I've ever met. You're smart, ambitious, kind, and you make me want to be a better man. I don't want to spend another day without you. Will you marry me?" The ring was stunning. A 2-carat emerald-cut diamond on a platinum band. I said yes. I said yes, so fast I barely got the word out. We set the wedding date for June of 2024. 10 months away. Enough time to plan something beautiful, but not so far that we'd lose momentum. I started planning immediately. Venue tours, dress shopping, guest lists, Pinterest boards. Trevor was supportive. He said, "Whatever you want, babe. This is your day." And a week after we got engaged, he asked me to move in with him. Trevor lived in a beautiful 3-bedroom house in Decatur. Hardwood floors, modern kitchen, a backyard with a deck and a fire pit. It was the kind of house I'd always dreamed of living in. He said, "It doesn't make sense for us to live separately when we're getting married. Plus, I want to wake up next to you every morning." I agreed. I gave notice at my apartment, started packing, and in early September I moved in. The first few weeks of living together were perfect. We fell into a routine. I'd make coffee in the mornings. He'd cook dinner most nights. We'd watch TV on the couch, plan wedding details, talk about our future. Trevor gave me space in the closet, drawers in the dresser, a side of the bathroom counter. He said, "Make yourself at home. This is our house now." But there was one room he didn't let me into. His home office. It was the third bedroom at the end of the hall. The door was always closed. He said he kept all his business files in there, contracts, property records, financial documents. He said it was easier to keep everything organized if it was off limits. "I'm not trying to be secretive," he said one night when I asked about it. "I just need one space that's mine, you know. For work stuff." I didn't push it. I figured every couple needed boundaries. But then on September 8th, 2023, Trevor left town for the weekend. He had a real estate conference in Miami. Said he'd be gone from Friday morning to Sunday evening. He kissed me goodbye, told me to relax, said he'd call me when he landed. And I had the house to myself. I spent Friday night unpacking the last of my boxes, organizing the kitchen, setting up my little corner of the living room with books and candles. Saturday morning, I decided to clean. I vacuumed, dusted, wiped down counters, and then I found myself standing in front of the office door. It was closed, locked. I told myself to leave it alone, but something in me wouldn't let it go. I thought about the locked door, the way Trevor always kept it closed, the way he'd never offered to show me what was inside. And I thought, if we're getting married, shouldn't I be able to go into every room in our house? I went to the kitchen and grabbed the junk drawer. Inside was a set of spare keys Trevor kept for the rental properties. Small keys, big keys, keys on labeled rings, and one unmarked key that looked like it might fit an interior door. I went back to the office, slid the key into the lock. It turned. I opened the door. The office looked normal at first. A desk with a laptop, a filing cabinet, bookshelves with real estate books and binders, a leather chair, everything neat and organized. I stood in the doorway for a minute, feeling guilty for even being in there. But then I thought, if there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to find. I walked over to the desk. There were a few papers scattered on top, property listings, inspection reports, nothing unusual. I opened the top drawer. Pens, post-it notes, business cards, normal. I opened the second drawer. More files, tax documents, lease agreements, still normal. And then I opened the bottom drawer. It was locked. My heart started pounding. Why would a drawer inside a locked room need another lock? I went back to the kitchen, grabbed the rest of the keys, tried 3 different small keys before one finally clicked. I pulled the drawer open. Inside was a manila envelope, thick, sealed. I picked it up. My hands were shaking. I opened it, and I pulled out a stack of documents. On top was a driver's license, Georgia license. The photo was of a black woman, late 20s, maybe early 30s. Beautiful. Dark skin, natural hair, bright smile. The name on the license, Simone Renee Hollis. Trevor's ex-wife. But something was wrong. The license hadn't expired yet. The issue date was from 2019. The expiration date was 2027. Why would Trevor have his ex-wife's current driver's license? I kept looking through the envelope. There was a social security card, also in her name. A credit card, her name. A debit card, her name. Her phone, an old iPhone, dead, but clearly hers. My stomach dropped. If Simone had left him, walked out and never came back like he said, why would she leave without her ID, her cards, her phone? I pulled out my phone, opened Google, typed in Simone Renee Hollis, Atlanta. The first result was a missing persons page. I clicked it. There was her photo, the same woman from the driver's license. The headline read, "Missing. Simone Renee Hollis, 29, last seen August 2020. I read the description. Simone Hollis was last seen leaving her home in Decatur, Georgia, on August 14, 2020. She was reported missing by her family on August 18th after she failed to show up for work and did not respond to calls or texts. Her vehicle was found abandoned in a grocery store parking lot. Anyone with information is urged to contact the Atlanta Police Department Cold Case Unit. August 2020. 3 years ago. The same year Trevor said they got divorced. She didn't leave him. She didn't walk out. She disappeared, and he had all of her identification locked in a drawer. My entire body went cold. I sat down in Trevor's desk chair because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. And I thought, what did he do? I sat in that office for 20 minutes, staring at the documents in my hands. My brain was screaming two completely opposite things at the same time. One voice said, "Call the police. Right now. This is evidence. This is a crime. He did something to her." The other voice said, "No. Wait. Maybe there's an explanation. Maybe she gave him these things. Maybe this is all a misunderstanding. He loves you. He's marrying you. He wouldn't." But the first voice got louder. Why would she give him her driver's license, her credit cards, her phone? Why would he lock them in a drawer? Why would he lie and say they got divorced when she's been missing for 3 years? I pulled out my phone. I took pictures of everything. The driver's license, the cards, the phone, the missing persons page. I backed them up to my cloud immediately. And then I put everything back in the envelope exactly as I'd found it. Put the envelope back in the drawer. Locked it. Locked the office door. Put the keys back in the junk drawer. And I sat on the couch. And I called the number on the missing persons page. The line rang 4 times before someone picked up. Atlanta Police Department, Cold Case Unit. This is Detective Morris. I took a deep breath. Hi. My name is Kennedy Marshall. I think I have information about a missing person case. Okay. Which case? Simone Hollis. She went missing in August of 2020. There was a pause. Can you tell me what information you have? I told him everything. About Trevor. About how we met. About how he said Simone was his ex-wife who'd left him. About moving in. About finding the locked drawer. About the driver's license, the cards, the phone. Detective Morris didn't interrupt me once. When I finished, he said, "Ms. Marshall, are you currently at the residence?" "Yes." "Is Mr. Hollis there with you?" "No. He's out of town until tomorrow." "Good. Don't touch anything else. We're sending officers to your location right now." 40 minutes later, there were 2 police cars parked in front of the house. Detective Morris arrived 10 minutes after that. He was in his mid-50s, black, wearing a suit and carrying a briefcase. He introduced himself, asked if I was okay, and then said, "Can you show me what you found?" I led him to the office, showed him the locked drawer. He put on gloves, opened it, and pulled out the envelope. He looked through everything, and then he looked at me and said, "Ms. Marshall, you may have just solved a 3-year-old cold case." Detective Morris and his team spent the next 4 hours in that house. They searched the office, the bedroom, the garage, the backyard. They took the envelope, the laptop, files from the filing cabinet. They found more. In the back of the filing cabinet, hidden behind a stack of old tax returns, they found a folder labeled Simone. Inside were printed emails, text message screenshots, photos, and a handwritten note that said, "If she won't stay, she won't leave." Detective Morris showed me the note. "Do you recognize this handwriting?" I looked at it. It was Trevor's. I'd seen his handwriting on birthday cards, grocery lists, notes he'd leave on the counter. "That's his," I said. They also found charges on an old credit card Trevor thought he'd hidden. Purchases made in August of 2020. A shovel, concrete mix, heavy-duty trash bags, bleach, all purchased 2 days after Simone was reported missing. Detective Morris pulled me aside. "Ms. Marshall, I need to ask you some hard questions. Has Trevor ever been violent with you?" "No." "Has he ever made you feel unsafe?" "No." "Has he ever mentioned Simone to you beyond saying she was his ex-wife?" "No. He said she left, and he didn't like to talk about it." Detective Morris nodded. "We're going to get a warrant to search the rental properties he owns. And we're going to bring him in for questioning when he gets back tomorrow." "What do I do?" I asked. "You stay somewhere else tonight. Don't tell him what happened. Don't warn him. Let us handle this." I called Nia. Told her I needed to stay with her for a few days. She didn't ask questions. Just said, "I'm on my way to get you." I packed a bag, and I left the house I thought I'd be living in for the rest of my life. Trevor came home on Sunday evening. The police were waiting for him. They arrested him in the driveway. Detective Morris called me later that night. "We found her," he said. "Where?" "Buried in the backyard of one of his rental properties. The one in East Point. The house has been vacant for 3 years. I felt like I was going to be sick." "He killed her." "We believe so. The medical examiner is still working, but based on what we've found, yes. She was likely killed in August of 2020. We think he hit her, probably during an argument, and then panicked. He buried her body, kept her identification, so no one could confirm her identity if remains were ever found, and then told everyone she'd left him." "What happens now?" "He's being charged with murder, concealment of a body, and obstruction of justice. He'll likely go to trial." The trial happened in March of 2024. I testified. I told the jury about finding the driver's license, about the locked drawer, about Googling her name and finding the missing persons page. Simone's family was there. Her mother, her sister, her brother. They looked at me with a mixture of gratitude and grief. After I testified, Simone's mother hugged me in the hallway. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for finding her, for bringing her home." Trevor's defense tried to argue that he'd panicked after she died in an accident and made a bad decision. But the jury didn't buy it. The evidence was too clear. The handwritten note, the purchases, the hidden identification, the burial. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They came back with a verdict. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Simone's family finally got closure. And Trevor, he's in a Georgia state prison, where he'll spend the rest of his life. It's been almost a year now. I'm not the same person I was on September 8th, 2023. I've been in therapy twice a week. I've worked through trauma I didn't even realize I was carrying. I've learned that you can't always see danger coming, but you can trust yourself when something feels off. I moved out of Atlanta, took a job in Charlotte. Fresh start, new city, new life. I'm single now, and honestly, I'm okay with that. I'm rebuilding, learning to trust again, learning that not everyone is hiding something, but also learning that it's okay to ask questions, to do your research, to protect yourself. If you take anything from the story, let it be this. Do your due diligence before you move in with someone, before you marry someone, before you build a life with someone. Google them, run a background check, ask questions about their past, meet their family, talk to their friends. It's not paranoia, it's protection. I wish I'd Googled Trevor before I said yes to that ring. I wish I'd asked more questions about Simone. I wish I'd trusted that little voice in my head that said, "Something's off," the first time he mentioned the locked office door. But I didn't, and it almost cost me my life. Because if I hadn't found that drawer, if I hadn't Googled her name, if I hadn't called that tip line, I could have been next. Simone's family told me something at the trial that I'll never forget. Her sister said, Simone was smart. She was careful, but she trusted the wrong person, and she paid for it with her life. That could have been me. That could have been any of us. So please, if this story resonated with you, if it made you think twice about someone in your life, if it reminded you that your safety matters more than being polite, share this video, hit that like button, subscribe so you don't miss future stories, and leave a comment telling me, have you ever done a background check on someone you were dating? Would you? Let's talk about it. Because we're not alone in this. We're survivors, and our intuition, combined with a little research, it can save our lives. Thank you for listening to this story. If it resonated with you, please share it. You deserve to be safe, and you deserve the truth.